I thought I'll talk on something really basic for the benefit of the AIS audience. And although we have stalwarts today, while being basic, I think it still is a very, very important aspect of cataract surgery, where whatever you might do, chamber stability probably is the key to a safe and successful, predictable cataract surgery. And whatever any number of measures that you might take may fall short. So you can keep improving the instrumentation, the technique, the machines. Everything is evolving in such a way that we are working at lower IOPs. We are working with better and better machines, which have which can sense the chamber fluctuations and make appropriate measures. But I'm going to talk more on small little tips which can help us beyond what we can do with the machines. So I think when we talk of chamber stability, we worked. I mean, I started doing phaco somewhere in '97 or '98, and that time Dr. Maipal sir was already, showing us how to do that. Dr. Dada, Dr. Maipal, they were the pioneers of phaco. Dr. Keki, and we were learning from them at that time. And we've come a long way. I remember my first machine was a Storz Protege, and it was a Venturi system. And we used to talk so much about Venturi and peristaltic pumps, and how one or the other might give you better hold or better cutting, better stability of the chamber. So we've come a long way. And then we had once I was somewhere around the 2000s, Dr. Amar came up with the concepts of, I remember he would tell us that, Gaurav, or anybody for that matter in live surgeries, put that bottle right up to the roof, and then we came up with a fish pump to increase the amount of fluid that was pushing into the chamber, so that we could have less surge and work with higher settings. So we've gone through the gamut of things, and now today we have these new machines which can actually work very well and sense the chamber stability. So the phaco have come a long way with pressured infusions, with quick response fluidics on the latest machines. But then these machines can cost the earth, and every phaco surgeon, especially a beginner phaco surgeon, may not be able to invest into a very big machine like this if he's working on his own. If he's working, of course, in a big setup, he will be able to get all these things available to him as well. And it's always good to be able to operate on any kind of machine, and you should be comfortable working even on a basic machine and as well as on a top end machine. So what happens basically with chamber stability is that you can get surge, and if you're using especially higher settings for very hard cataracts, or if you're fond of using high vacuum settings and flow rates, you are more likely to get surge, especially towards the end for that last fragment. And what actually causes less chamber stability as well is fluid losses. So we are always looking for appropriate phaco tips and phaco sleeves, and appropriate incisions. So having the right size incision, having the correct blades, they make a lot of difference. And so we all look at the main port for having the correct, you don't want a very tight wound, because you'll get a wound burn. And if you have a loose main port, you will keep having fluid egressing, and you will not have chamber stability from there. What very few people probably look at is the side port, and I wanted to talk about that as well today. And coming to, if we could minimize unaccounted fluid losses from the chamber, that would go a long way in improving beyond what we can do with the latest generation phaco machines. Of course, we all understand that when you don't have chamber stability, you can end up with so many things. You could have sudden inadvertent surge, and you can have a PCR, you can have zonular dehiscence, you can have with shallow chambers and trying to avoid going too deep, you can have endothelial damage. You could have iris prolapse from the side ports or main ports. You could end up having poor visual outcomes. You could have corneal edema, and of course there's a long list which is even longer than this. So I think the key is to have a controlled chamber, and a controlled incision, and a controlled infusion, and controlled egress, and that's what is going to give you a good outcome. So here I wanted to show you a case where this was something which requires a lot of precision. And this is actually an old video, but I decided to show this because this is how I used to operate a few years back. Of course, this was a challenging situation, but I would want to ensure that this requires a very stable chamber. It's a very highly myopic eye with almost 16 cuts, archaic cuts, and I prefer to do femto assisted cataract surgery here, because you can do many of the the, except for the main incisions, I can have the nucleus already cleaved, I can have the rexes, so my number of entries and exits from the eye will be minimized, because I'm only going in to just do my basic phaco maneuvers. And the lesser the maneuvers at the main port and the side port, the better it is, because as the surgery goes on and the number of times that you have to move your instruments around inside, the more the chances that your incisions are going to kind of reach one of the arcane incisions and make them open up. So I prefer femto assisted, and many people think that getting the right rexis with RKIs is tough, but believe me, my preferred way of operating here is this. And of course, you have to be careful because you will get occasional tags, but you will very rarely get a broken rexis even with these RK incisions. And I've done, frankly, with many more incisions than this. Now, the importance here is that you should not have overlocking. So you should be ensuring that your incisions are controlled, and then the right kind of injector, the right instrumentation will make a lot of difference, because the lesser the handling of your incisions, the more the chances that you are likely to have a good stable chamber. What I wanted to share with you is here, if you notice that my side ports are how I used to make them 2 3 years back is with an angled MVR, but we were making it with a 20 gauge MVR, because that's what the Alcon machines initially used to come with, the bimanual IA. What I gradually realized was that, and this is my way of checking for any wound leaks at the end of surgery. I put a drop of trypan blue. You can see that, you can see a stream of fluid coming out if you have a small leak, and micro leaks can be then sealed off, and that helps. And then I can just press the chamber to check if it's nicely sealed. How I evolved was, let's go on to the next one. And here another surgery where we innovated and we changed the kind of chopper. So I tried to match my incision to the instrumentation, of course, ensuring that the main port is of the exact size so that it's neither tight nor loose. So minimizing fluid losses from the main port during the surgery. And then I started looking at my side ports. So we started innovating with the choppers, and we started finding out if we can match the chopper to the incision size. And this, would allow me to have a better, I'm sorry, I would it would allow me to kind of have a chopper which would match. But here again, if you notice, I'm purposely showing you this video. There is a lot of fluid egress from the side port. Let me just take you back a little bit. Just watch. There is so much fluid coming out in this area. So even though I'm operating at with trying to have a stable chamber, now this continuous fluid flow is never going to allow me to have a stable chamber. And even though I'm trying to use a chopper which is wider, towards the base than at the tip, it is not matched to my size of the incision. So this effort is going waste. And as you make these maneuvers and stretch the wounds, the chances, or even depress the posterior lip, the chances of more fluid coming out even further increase. And you can have, especially if you're working at low IOPs as the new machines allow you to, even though they have pressured infusion, you will still end up getting occasional surge. And that last piece, you might just get, sudden PCR as well, or uncontrolled chambers. So to kind of preempt this and come around, I started then looking at, this is another thing which I wanted to show you. I hate these blades. I know that a lot of people use these even now, but just see, if you're using a blade like this for making your side port, you will never have a controlled incision. The incision size will never be controlled, because the longer you push it in, although it is shaped in a nice way, but you don't know what gauge incision you're going to get. If you put it too short, you'll have a tight wound. If you put it too far, you're going to have a very leaky wound. So there's no control on the size of your incision. Coming on, we decided to use, here we were innovating, and we started using 23 gauge MVRs for at the start of surgery, because we started innovating also with the bimanual handpieces, getting them made from epsilon in 21, 22, and 23 gauges, and ensuring that our incisions are matched. And now with the 23 gauge MVR, my chopper becomes perfectly matched to my incision. And now this, I can have a very controlled chamber. You can see that my IOP is, my bottle height is just 40 over here, and I can even operate at 35 centimeters bottle height at this time, which is equal to a pressure of just about 25, IOP of 25. So you can actually have a very, very controlled hard cataract surgery with almost no fluid losses happening, neither from the main port. So with the special sleeves which now come with these machines, and frankly, the whole purpose is that you don't need high-end machines for these small little maneuvers. All you need to do is match your instrumentation, your knives, and your choppers, and you can ensure that your wounds are not going to be leaky. Of course, now the challenge is that if you're using a 23 gauge bimanual IA, it is going to have problems with, you can see that the ports are really tight, and I'm struggling to get my infusion in, and also maybe the other aspiration. But of course, that also ensures that my wounds are perfectly sealed, and there's no fluid losses happening from my side ports as I do the maneuvers there. So it's a very, very controlled system. And even with very low IOPs, you can work very well with even high parameters as well. Coming on to my last quick video, and before we go on, I wanted to share that further innovation that we, I think I've missed one. Yeah, this is the last one. So Here now we are making a side port. This is the one which I'm going to use later. So this is a 22 gauge, and my chopper I'm going to make a 23 gauge to begin with. So once I make it with the 23 gauge MVR, angled MVR, and that's what I like because you don't get surprises with angled MVRs as compared to other knives that you can use for the side port. So a very small side port, and this is matched to my chopper. And just watch how the chopper is not allowing any egress of fluid. So the chamber stability remains very good. And even if you're using a very basic machine, I travel for live surgery to several places, and you can get any kind of a machine anywhere. So if you are operating, you can kind of ensure that everything is in your control, not in the machine's control, and you can still have excellent chamber stability and minimize the surprises. Now, once the cataract is gone, I will enlarge my side port to a 22 gauge. So just watch, and then I'll finish my talk. Here now I'm going to have the chamber formed with side port infusion. You can see that it's going in a little tight, but that's what allows me. And now I'm enlarging the 23 to a 22. And now I'll be able to use a 22 gauge, which gives me perfect chamber stability. These are customized hand irrigation aspiration hand pieces with sandblasting, and these are very good on both things. Usually I'm sandblasted on my aspiration and infusion, very fine kind of sandblasting. And then you can go ahead and do an hydroimplantation. At all points, the chamber stability remains good. So the take-home message is that chamber stability is, I think, of utmost importance, as we all understand, and it improves the safety and predictability of the surgery. And of course, the perfect incisions make a lot of difference, and they can make or break a perfect surgery. So calibrating the side ports. In fact, Dr. Rohit Om Prakash has been innovating on this front as well. And I think, I don't know if he's talking today on this, but he has his own way of making these side port incisions which are non-leaky. And we've been working on the same front for a long time, but both probably give us similar results. So with that, I think I would like to stop here and thank you for this opportunity.